Am I the a-hole for not attending my graduation party and telling everyone why when they ask? My family has not celebrated anything to do with me since I was 12 years old. My dad and his new wife had a baby that year, and I was kind of forgotten about. I would get birthday presents and such, but no party or anything. I got used to it and started a tradition of celebrating with my friends. We would go see movies or whatever. One of my friend's mom found out and started making me a cake every year for my birthday. When I graduated from high school, I had saved up enough money to go on a week-long vacation in New York with my best friend and her mom to see Hadestown. I just finished university, and I am starting my new job right away. I guess my dad had planned a big party for me as a surprise, but I didn't show up because I went out with my friends instead. When my family started asking me why I didn't show up after my father had gone through all the effort for me, I explained that he hadn't celebrated anything of mine in 10 years, and I didn't know he had planned to do so this time. He told everyone I was lying, so I asked him to post any pictures he had for my birthday parties, extracurricular activities, or high school graduation. He obviously couldn't, and everyone started crapping on him. Now he is mad for talking about private family matters. I'm just going to go over there and pick up the few things I have left in that house and just move to my new city without dealing with this anymore. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. How dare you tell the truth about me being a horrible parent? Really? People always call them private family matters when they know their behavior is indefensible. Absolutely. Notice how this one celebration of Opie in 10 years was a public event? He wanted all the pats on the back and the "what a great dad" comments. But all the neglect of Opie for the previous 10 years has to remain private family business. This guy is a vibrant shade of bellend and deserves his family and friends to see it. My dad pulled some low-key similar crap when I got married. We had hardly spoken in 9 years, and he sends his newest wife, who I hardly know, to ask me if they can do something for me. Nah, bruh. You haven't even acknowledged my existence in years. You don't get to bask in this life experience. I ended up dogging his parenting online at one point, and one of my cousins came to his rescue trying to call me a narcissist and telling me off for saying negative things about my dad/his family publicly. It's all abusive behavior, and Opie seems to be aware. Get your stuff and go, friend. Seems like you've already found at least some of your chosen family, and that's incredible. Keep those who value you close. Yeah, moving out and going no contact over one party sounds petty, but it's not about one party. These are years of neglect. I assume it wasn't just missed celebrations, but also smaller everyday things that Opie didn't write down, or were so common that they didn't register at all. Info, how did he expect you to just show up? Had he invited you over at all and planned to surprise you, or was he just expecting you to drop by? Did you agree to come over and then just not show up? Something's missing here. He had asked me to be home for dinner that night. Not a-hole. So you didn't turn up for a party you weren't aware of? That's not on you or your father. It's a mistake. The fact you didn't even expect it due to past behavior, doubly not on you. And your father should have tried to ensure you were there, or maybe not planned a surprise for one. However, your father then lying about the past and getting called on it, that's now him causing problems and reaping the consequences. Of course he's mad. People now know about his past behavior. Here's the thing. A bigger person would have never lied about the past, but instead apologized for missing past celebrations and saying they understand why he didn't expect something this time. Then, if they were extra sorry, would have rescheduled with you. Instead, he is acting like you were mean to him. I disagree with the part about the father not getting the guest of honor to the surprise party not being on the father's list of problems. It is the person throwing the surprise party's duty to get the guest of honor there. Next story. Would I be the a-hole if I skipped my sister's wedding? I, 23 male, am one of 7 kids. There's Lydia, 31 female, Josh, 28 male, Leo, 25 male, me, then Aaron, 21 female, Nadia, 18 female, and a surprise child, Lexi, 4 female. With that many siblings, it's easy to get lost in the crowd. Some of us have our positions, so to speak. Lydia's the oldest. Lexi's the baby. I have a kid. Yes, that's my descriptor. Opie gave us a grandchild. Erin is the golden child. She was the last planned child, the one supposed to tie up our family. She was born premature, So I understand that my parents cuddled her to an extent, but it's more than that now. Erin's getting married and recently told us that she's brought the date forward due to a cancellation. No big deal, it just means they're getting married sooner. But the new date lands on the date of Nadia's high school graduation. Erin was sympathetic but said she's already committed to the date, and they've printed the invitations. My parents normally go overboard on our high school grads, but they said that they just have to miss Nadia's. We were all sympathetic, but it wasn't intentional. Or so I thought. The Nadia later told me and Leo that she was there when Erin got a call about the cancellation and told Erin that she was graduating that day. Erin just laughed and accepted the dates anyway. This, as much as I hate to admit, sounds like a very Erin thing to do. She booked her engagement party for the night of Nadia's 18th birthday. Luckily, she wasn't celebrating until the weekend. She even announced her engagement at my oldest sister's wedding anniversary. Everything is about her. So I confronted Erin about this and she said that Nadia's high school graduation didn't matter. She wanted to get married to the love of her life sooner, and our family had been to plenty of high school graduations at this point anyway. She said something like, "We still have Lexi." But here's what gets me the most. Nadia's been looking forward to this for so long. She's watched all of us graduate and have these huge celebrations thrown by our parents. So I asked Nadia what she wanted, and she said she wanted to have her day. So I told my family that me and Nadia won't be attending the wedding. Leo has also dropped out. Everyone's angry. Erin's furious. And I didn't make it better by telling her that I could watch our other siblings get married, since it's all the same in her eyes. Mom's trying to convince me to come to the wedding because graduation isn't as important. But I feel like if I don't do this, then it sets a precedent in Nadia's life that she's always going to mean less than Erin. I've had messages calling me an a-hole, an idiot, etc. They're telling me to step up and be a good brother. But that's what I'm doing. My son is supposed to be a ring bearer, but with how my family is reacting, I'm considering pulling him out of the wedding too. My dad just told Nadia I'll take her to dinner after the wedding. And now Nadia is currently staying with me because mom won't stop cornering her. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Erin tried to make her little sister's graduation all about her. And you are being a good big brother and standing up for Nadia. Also, I am extra petty, but I would pull your son out of the wedding in solidarity for Nadia. By the way, I could watch our other siblings get married since it's all the same in her eyes. Boom! The last part was golden. It's always good when you use the selfish people's own logic against them. Not a-hole, Opie. Pull out your son. If you want to be even more petty, make him some kind of bearer for Nadia's graduation. Continue being a good brother. He could be Nadia's cap bearer and make sure her tassel is in the proper place and unknotted all the way. Make a whole ceremony of making sure Auntie is completely ready to walk for her diploma, and it would be the cutest thing ever, especially if he and Opie are both dressed in formal clothes. Not a-hole at all, and I would have done the same as you. What Erin and your folks don't seem to get is, when they say graduation is less important, that's not what Nadia hears. She hears Nadia is less important. And Erin certainly has a history of treating her that way. Good for you for trying to help Nadia feel like she matters too. Erin already had her engagement party on Nadia's birthday too, and announced her engagement at the other sister's wedding. She must just hate her sisters. She's so self-centered. It's very clear she hates her sisters. I would ruin her wedding. That's how petty I am. Lol. Not a-hole. Please don't be petty. The following things would be petty, which I don't recommend doing. Pull your son last minute from the wedding. Show up to the reception with Nadia in her graduation robe. Make a speech congratulating Erin on the wedding and then shift it to Nadia for being such a good sport. Nadia, thank you. Thank you for sacrificing your special day for the sake of Erin. I know we usually throw huge celebrations for graduation, but you knew, or I guess we're told, how special this day was for Erin. Keep asking Erin and your mom if you can make use their reception as a party for Nadia as well. Use your son as leverage. Book a performer, mariachi, to come and play a song congratulating Nadia, and then leave without acknowledging the wedding. There is so much trouble you can cause at the reception. Haha. Next story. Am I the a-hole because I threatened to send my stepmother to jail? As background information, my parents have been divorced for over 10 years and me, male 21, and my siblings, female 24 and male 19, met my father's new girlfriend about 4 years ago. Our not yet stepmother always had a certain dislike towards us, and we didn't like her either. She always subtly implied that she doesn't like us, and we have often tried to tell this to our father. But he is the quiet type. He never gets involved and believes that we should feel educated by her. I moved out a year ago. Now, I have learned that my father and his girlfriend are planning to get married. Her idea. Even though our family has never been financially well off, my stepmother wants to have a big celebration. Now, here's the problem. She is demanding financial support from all of us children for the celebration, because we are a family too. My sister, 24, is kind-hearted and even offered to help voluntarily. But my brother, 19, and I were super annoyed. When I refused to give her a single buck and suggested that she should just make the celebration smaller, she flipped out, and we had a heated argument. After that, we didn't have any contact for a few days, until I suddenly received a notification that a certain amount of money was missing from my bank account. It turned out that my crazy stepmother had her hands in our accounts. Since I had a good relationship with my father, he had access to one account, which money she simply took. It wasn't a significant amount, but when she refused to return the money, I threatened to report her to the police for theft. Now, all the relatives think that I want to prevent the wedding, and they say, "Don't make such a fuss, family's more important than money, blah blah." But I'm angry and waiting to see if she returns it or if I actually go through with it. Am I the a-hole? Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. What the heck is this business about how kids are supposed to financially support a wedding for people presumably in their 40s or 50s? Advice. 1. Withdraw the remaining funds from the account and close it. Now. Same for your siblings, if your father's name is on any of their accounts. 2. Open a new account and deposit the funds there, with only your name on it. 3. Get the police involved, but not just for her. Your father participated in stealing the funds from you, so he's just as guilty. 4. Ignore what the relatives are saying. This. I would in writing tell father and stepmom that they have an hour to deliver money to you in person or put it back into account or you are going to the police. Not a-hole. Not a-hole. Call your bank immediately and have your father removed from your account and tell them what happened. Whether or not you take legal action, you absolutely need to change all of your passwords and account access on literally anything you have. If you ever logged into an account of any kind at your dad's house, you need to change those passwords. Tell your dad that you are officially removing him from anything he has access to that is yours, as his fiancé has crossed boundaries that you're not willing to compromise on. Don't cave on this. She is helping herself to your money, and it definitely won't be the last time. They're not even married yet, and she's expecting you to pay her way? The fact that she thinks a 19-year-old and 21-year-old have money to spare is unhinged. Adding to this, OP, you should check and lock down your credit. If she's willing to steal from you this way, she may well try to steal from you in other ways as well, if she hasn't already. Your stepmother is nothing more than a thief, not a hole. Adding to that, in case OP never heard of locking credit. OP, you can reach out to the 3 big credit report sites and lock your credit. This prevents her from getting loans or credit cards in your name, which are probably her next step. Thank you so much. I will check it. Have you done a background check on this woman? I would not be surprised if she has a history. If the theft doesn't deter your father, a lengthy history of bad behavior may make some impression on him. I haven't found a history, but it will all be revealed soon enough. Last story. Am I the a-hole for wanting my graduation dinner to be about me and not about my impressive sister? I am going to graduate high school, so we are celebrating early since my family's down for my sister's college graduation. I've always felt my sister is better than me at basically everything. I got by with B while she was a straight A student, and so on. No one says it, but I know they prefer her to me. My aunt is not an easy person to impress at all, as she was a lot of firsts in the family. We were at dinner, and my aunt started to ask about my sister's job she got out of college. The whole rest of dinner was talking about my sister, what she's gonna do, and so on. It might as well have been a celebration for her. Then my uncle asked me about if I'm going to college, and I snapped at him saying why it doesn't matter. This dinner is about my sister, not me. The table got quiet and my mother told me to apologize, but I refused. We got home, and I got in an argument with my family who think I was being a jerk. Edit: my sister has her own party after a week. That's why I thought my graduation party would be about me. You're the a-hole. Your uncle was trying to make sure your accomplishments were being recognized too, and you snapped at him. You feel insecure. That's no one else's problems but yours. Agreed. I can understand why you felt like you were being swept under the rug, but it sounds like your uncle was trying to adjust the spotlight back to you. He did not deserve to be snapped at. It's everyone sucks here except the uncle. How are the others not being a-holes? A lot of y'all are clearly missing how the conversation went on, led by the aunt. Why in the hell would it be okay for praises to be sung constantly for someone whose celebration is not even for? It would be like cooing and giving all the attention to a pregnant woman or freshly engaged woman at someone else's wedding. This was not the time or place for a million praises to be given to anyone except OP. 1 or 2 comments is one thing, but damn, OP is 100% still being overshadowed at her own celebration. Hell, I don't even think it's an everyone sucks scenario. She was voicing her pain at being overshadowed. I'm going to assume the uncle knows that, as he was the one trying to bring the focus back on her. But you know the phrase, too little too late. I feel like she was just voicing her pain, not yelling at the uncle specifically. Poor thing. She should have had one day where it is about her. It was her graduation party after all. Everyone sucks here. Everyone except your uncle. You shouldn't have yelled at him. He was just trying to help. Although I do think you're the least a-hole-ish out of all the a-holes here. Everyone else could have let the spotlight be on you for once. This. OP snapping was due to everyone else at the table creating that resentment in OP. Uncle did nothing wrong, but got caught up in a crossfire. Honestly, I kind of think OP's still not an a-hole, though needs to give Uncle an apology. Him trying to make it about OP makes me think he probably understands. While this sub is never afraid to be hypocritical, I think we've let enough people by with a "I get why you exploded, don't do it again though," to try to throw this 18-year-old under the bus. Would I be the a-hole if I told my child's father to stop trying to establish contact? My child is now 27, so this isn't a minor we're talking about. I got pregnant at 17, and he hung around for about 6 weeks after finding out. We'd been dating for about 9 months by then. So the important details. 1. His family, parents, and siblings refused to acknowledge my child as his. I offered them visitation after, but never got a response. 2. Despite not acknowledging the paternity, his parents began threatening me with taking the baby away, threatening to lie and claim I was unfit, etc. 3. I got a lawyer's advice about enforcing a court order for him to establish both paternity and visitation rights after the threats from his family, due to an increased risk of parental abduction. 4. He only contacted me twice after I had my baby. Once to see if I had a baby, then once to ask if he could take the baby for the weekend the next day. Baby was nearly 3 months old at a time, and he'd never even come by to meet the baby. I told him to establish paternity as he was not on the birth certificate because he was not present at birth, custody rights, and child support. He never contacted me directly again, not once. Over the past 27 years, he ran into a friend of mine and let slip that he'd been keeping a close eye on us, knew where we lived, knew about a haircut my child got the weekend before, and a lot of things he should not have known. So I locked down any social media accounts we had. My child was about 15 at a time. My child is known about by your father since 12, known his name and details since 18, and I have offered to help my child get in touch with him, but my child did not want to. Then about 2 weeks ago, one of his nieces reached out to my child online and wanted a DNA test done and felt confident they were cousins. After my kid and I talked about it a lot, I admitted more of the trauma they put on me during the pregnancy. But I still said if you want to contact them, you can. They are your family. My kid said absolutely not, reached out, and basically told a cousin that it just was not going to happen. Then we got a bomb that his entire family, 4 siblings, their partners, their kids, and even grandkids, have known about my child the entire 27 years. They talk about my child often, look at photos when they can find any, and basically treat my child as his long-lost but much-wanted child. I, predictably, am the witch who stole the baby from their lives. Now his mom, who was extremely vile towards me during my pregnancy, really regrets not insisting that they have my child in their lives. I even found a baby photo I had sent them 27 years ago on her Facebook. So, would I be the a-hole if I reached out to him and told him to see himself right the hell out of our lives again? And to tell his mom that my child very much wants absolutely nothing to do with them, and that even if my child's mind changes, it will never include Biodad or his mother after everything that went down? 'Cause I kind of just want to drop a house on that witch. Now for the top comments. You would not be the a-hole. Oh my god, Opie. Your baby daddy and his family are insanely toxic and honestly creepy. He ran into a friend of mine and let slip that he'd been keeping a close eye on us, knew where we lived, knew about a haircut my child got the weekend before, and a lot of things he should not have known. This is weird that he just been watching. Now that is out of the way, I have a feeling he has been lying to his family, claiming that you kept your child away from him, when in fact, he almost was never in the child's life, nor do the child want a relationship with him. His family's insane. His mom planned to lie and call you in fit in order to take your child from you, when her own son only contacted you twice about his kid and never been in their life at all. I have a feeling the spouses/partners and the kids, my kids' cousins and even siblings, apparently there are like 15 of them, don't know what happened. His mother 100% knows how it all went down. While pregnant, I reached out via letter once to let them know how to contact me in case they wanted to be included in my child's life, as my kid was their first grandchild, and then again shortly after my baby was born with a newborn photo and another invitation to contact me and talk if they ever wanted to meet the baby. His parents never responded. It was like a punch in the gut to find out just how much he knew about us. At the time, our accounts were all private online, but I realized there were some things that had been set to public on Facebook. That said, a lot of the things he mentioned were not even posted online, where all of my kids went to school, for instance. We took steps to make sure our lives were even more private after that. For a long time, it felt like we were being watched anywhere we went. Not the a-hole. I wouldn't say you'd be an a-hole. However, I'd say since your child is 27, it's not your place to say anything anymore. Your child is legal adult and has been for nearly a decade. If your son randomly changes his mind one day to get to know the people, you don't have any say in that. Nor should you. You also should not be speaking on your son's behalf. Oh, my kid did reach out to the cousin and said basically that they wanted nothing to do with the family that put their mom through so much trauma. I reached out and talked to the cousin to make sure the cousin knew that I had never denied the dad or his family the right to be in my kid's life. And I let her know that my child would not be happy if other family members decided now was the time to get in touch. My kid was really upset at the conversation with her cousin, not because of the cousin, who was really understanding and respectful of the situation, but because they felt 27 years was way too long to suddenly decide the bio family wanted to be involved. My kid handled it well, but I wanted to just reinforce that Biodad and his mother should not take my kid's response as an invitation to suddenly reach out. Mostly, I want to reach out because of the deep anger I thought I had forgotten a long time ago. I'm so angry at the number of memories I had forgotten, at a little ways they inflicted trauma on me that I had not thought about in probably 20 years. This would solely be about me wanting to tell them off for how I was treated and for my kid being good enough to be a story, but never actually a part of the family. I know, it's a complicated mess. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my former stepmother to go F herself? Last week, I was back in my hometown helping a friend take his truck to the dealership. While it was in the shop, we went and got lunch at a pretty popular spot, and we got sat next to my former stepmother and former stepbrother. My ex-stepbro and I don't talk, but he's close with my younger sibling, because for about 8 years they lived together. I was older and really never had a connection with him. But it was me who caught my dad cheating on my mother with my now ex-stepmom when I was 12. A year later, he left us for her, moved a block away into her house. Things sucked for a while. Life was a big slap in the face for a while, and I worked through high school and college to support my mom and brother, because my dad didn't think it was his problem anymore, and my former stepmother encouraged that. Later, my ex-stepmom cheated on my dad and left him. All good in my opinion, as that relationship needed to end. Anyway, she interrupted our meal and asked me how I was. and I looked her in the eye and asked her what the heck she thought she was doing. She said, "Just saying hi." I looked at her and then my former stepbro and said, "Hey stepbro, always a pleasure to see you, my friend," as he's a bystander. Shook his hand and ignored them. She tapped my arm and said, "What am I, invisible?" And I lost it, to be honest. I looked at her and said, "You can go F yourself. Don't speak to me. I don't want to talk to you. Who the heck do you think you are right now? Why on earth would you ever think I'd want to talk to you now that I don't legally have to?" She said she was just being polite, and I asked her if she was still messing around with married guys. My friend asked for the check and we left. He was cool about it as he remembers what my home life was like. But my brother thinks I was too harsh, and my dad thinks I created drama from nothing. My wife thinks it was embarrassing even though she wasn't there. Personally, I still think she can go F herself. My friend also thought it was extreme even though he was understanding. Ha ha ha, not the a-hole. Tell it like it is. That's how I feel, but after talking to my wife, I really think I should have just been polite and left instead of being explosive. Some people just need those explosives though. Thumbs up. Your wife should understand why and how that reaction is not embarrassing. So we've talked about it a lot since I posted. I think she started to realize, reading some of these responses, that she didn't truly understand how crappy my childhood was. She's come around and now thinks that even though it wasn't ideal, it was more of an expression of a really deep pain that never completely healed, and not some unhinged anger. I think, yes, I sort of gave into some emotions I wasn't really prepared to feel, but I also think healing-wise I'm okay. It's not that I don't talk about it, or that it's some taboo subject within our family, but she grew up in a very stable and loving home, so she has a hard time wrapping her head around it all. Sometimes she underestimates the damage, other times she overestimates it. Little of both this time. So are you in contact with your dad then? He's the one who tore up your family. Don't get me wrong, I think that she's trash too. His dad wasn't present at the time. Ex-stepmother was. Nothing in the post implies that Opie gives dad a free pass. He screwed them over financially, and stepmother encouraged it. In his comment, Opie mentioned that his dad said that he created unnecessary drama. I asked Opie about his relationship with dad, though when that ex-mom knew that she was being ignored, she should have left Opie alone. But she chose to actually tap Opie. She needed to be snapped on. Opie stepped up when his low-life dad stepped down. Next story. Am I the a-hole for trying to dictate who my fiancé will walk with as a groomsman on his best friend's wedding? My fiancé Paul has a best friend Jack. Jack has been with his fiancée Natalie for 7 years, while Paul and I have been together for 6. Natalie always had a weird obsession of hooking up Paul and her sister Mary, and setting them up as a couple. Paul was never interested in Mary, but Natalie and Mary always tried to grab his attention. After Paul and I got together, Natalie would always try to exclude me from every single group gathering, and would even try to set up double dates between her, Jack, Paul, and Mary. Paul wouldn't have it, and set boundaries early on, but neither Mary nor Natalie respected them and kept crossing boundaries. Paul then had to cut them off and only kept contact with Jack. After some years of no contact, Natalie apologized to Paul and me about her behavior, and promised it's all in the past, and that her and Mary acted immaturely, and Mary has moved on as well. As grown adults, we decided to move on, but Paul kept feeling uncomfortable around Mary, because she hadn't completely changed her behavior around him. Anyway, fast forward to the wedding, which is in a couple of months. Jack asked Paul to be his groomsman and Paul happily accepted. It wasn't until now that Natalie said that Paul will walk down the aisle with Mary, to which Paul refused. He listed all of the reasons and why he doesn't want to. I was also against it because Mary has indeed not changed, and neither I nor Paul are comfortable with that setting. After some back and forth, Natalie called me and begged me to convince Paul, and said, "Please don't act insecure about this. You know how important a wedding is to a bride. Don't ruin this for me." To which I replied that I understand the importance of her wedding, but mine and Paul's discomfort is more important to us than her wedding. I said you could literally pick any other girl to Paul to walk with, yet you picked Mary. How convenient. After some continuous back and forth, Natalie and Jack tried to convince Paul to accept Mary in this occasion, to which he said no, and if it's such a deal breaker then he's stepping down as a groomsman. Anyway, now Natalie and her family are accusing me and Paul for trying to dictate what they will do at their wedding, and say we are the ones who are overstepping. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. The important part here is Paul's discomfort. This isn't just you dictating. Jack isn't being a good friend for insisting on this if it's making Paul uncomfortable. You said he's a groomsman, not the best man. That's the only scenario I could see where they want the maid of honor and best man to walk together for the flow, but it's not the case here. If it's going to ruin the wedding, Natalie needs to take a long, hard look at herself and why this is such a hill to die on for her. The lack of self-awareness on the bride's part shows a high level of egocentrism. She knows exactly what she's doing, not the a-hole. Maybe it's time to go no contact if they haven't changed. Why can't he walk with any other bridesmaid? That's what both Paul and I said. Why can't it be any other bridesmaid? We got no clear answer to that, besides the fact that it's the bride's vision to be that way. Lol, let's be honest. We know why it's the vision. Of course we do, but they wouldn't say that out loud. And they're still trying to hook those two up. If someone cannot respect my relationship, then I don't have a place for them in my life. I'm glad your boyfriend understood how messed up all this is. He needs to have a final talk with his friend. Flat out say if this is the hill he wants to die on, then their friendship is done. Explain how inconsiderate this is. Reverse it to the groom. How would he feel if someone was ignoring his relationship and trying to hook up his partner with someone else? This is friendship-ending material right here, not the a-hole. Last story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to bring my girlfriend's son along with me to my guy's night? I, 43 male, have been involved with my 42 female girlfriend for about a year and change. She has 3 kids, 20 female, 19 female, and 17 male. Her ex-husband abandoned the family almost immediately after the youngest was born. I like and get along with all 3 of her kids really well, but her son, who we'll call Jake, and I have especially formed a good connection. I've taken him out with me off-roading, fishing, and golfing. So, recently my girlfriend asked me what I was doing Saturday night, wanting to do something with me. I told her, sorry, but Saturday night is guys' night. I'm going to my friend's house with most of my other buddies and coworkers for poker night. She seemed a little annoyed, but said, fine, but then will you at least bring Jake along with you? I told her that we'd drink a good bit, and some of us smoke cigars, and we get a little rowdy and probably somewhat inappropriate. She said, well, obviously don't allow him to drink or smoke, but he should hang out with some guys being guys. He grew up without his father, and it would be good for him. But I just didn't want to bring him along. I admit that part of the reason why is because I just want to hang out with my buddies and have fun without having to worry about being a role model for Jake. But I also just think that this sort of environment isn't appropriate for a teenager. It's not horrible or anything, but our guys' nights are for adults. But my girlfriend seems to think that I should have included Jake, since she gave her approval. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. If Jake was grown, like 25 plus and wanted to go, it might be a little different to bring him along because he'd be able to drink, smoke, and probably even be able to hold his own in the crap talking that takes place on guys' nights. But he's 17. He can't drink, he can't smoke. And I'll be honest, I imagine it'd be uncomfortable for everybody involved to have a kid at a guy's night, unless he's used to hanging out with older guys and already has a feel for the kind of things that can and cannot be said when crap talking. But still would not be the a-hole in that situation too, in my opinion. Sometimes you need a break. It's not a break as in getting rest, but to get a break from your daily grind, be in a different environment, receive new input and experiences. OP may not get that if he brings the daily environment and responsibilities with them. It even goes beyond OP. Maybe the group of friends have worked up a little of trust and comfort to be like themselves and share thoughts and feelings, or act and unwind in ways they don't get to do elsewhere/everywhere. Bringing in a new element could ruin that experience for everyone else too. Not the a-hole. She's not thinking about this clearly. He's an underage kid, and you're his mom's boyfriend. It would be awkward for everyone involved. While it's okay she wants him around guys being guys, your guys' night is not a time for babysitting a teen. He gets fishing trips and other things you mentioned. Insist that this is not the event, especially because your friends aren't bringing their kids too. That would be unfair to them. It may even be unfair to Jake. It doesn't sound like the girlfriend asked Jake if he wanted to go to OP's poker night, just that she wants OP to take him. Most 17-year-old boys have better things to do on Saturday night, like play video games, hang out with friends, and go on dates, than sit with my mom's boyfriend and friends watching them be guys. Part of me wonders if having Jake tag along is the girlfriend's way of checking up on OP. She wanted to do something with him. He already has plans. So she wants to know what happens at these guys' night / verify that is actually happening. Am I the a-hole for calling a woman a psycho for leaving a Bluetooth tracker in my car after our first solo date? My 42 wife passed away 2 years ago. We had been together since 1999. I was broken for a while and probably clinically depressed. I never sought treatment or anything. I was just not okay. I have recently decided that I am done being alone, so I asked my friends and family if they knew anyone that I might be interested in getting to know. I have never used online dating, and I only had one girlfriend before I met my wife, so I am not exactly an expert at how to date. My friend's wife said she knew a nice woman, and I agreed to go on a double date with them and her. I thought it went well, and I said I would like to see her again. We agreed to go for dinner and see Anastasia. I picked her up at her apartment, and once again I had a nice time. There weren't fireworks or anything, but I was comfortable with her and she is physically attractive. I dropped her back at her home afterwards and went over to see my sister. She insisted I come over and talk after the date so she could guide me. She was best friends with my wife. We met through her and she has become my protector since my wife died. So I'm having tea with my sister and this car pulls into the driveway. It is the woman I was out on a date with. I asked her how she found me and was kind of freaked out that she followed me. She said she had left an AirTag in my car so she could come over. My sister said that was creepy AF and that if the sexes were reversed, the cops would be called. The woman tried to defend herself by saying that I already knew where she lived, so it wasn't that big a deal. I called her a psycho and asked her to please take the tracker out of my car or I would call the cops. Now I have been hearing for days from my friend's wife, saying that I overreacted because I don't know what it is like out there for women dating in their 30s. She says I'm being an a-hole for blowing it out of proportion, and that I should be flattered that this woman wanted to come into my home for whatever after 2 dates. I told her that I did not need any more help or advice from her, and blocked her. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. This is not a dating technique. It's a violation of law. As for your friend's wife, she needs to go search her own car and reassess who's overreacting about what. The sister is right. If Opie pulled a stunt like that, the woman would have called the cops. If the woman didn't want Opie to know where she lived, she could have taken multiple steps to protect that piece of information. Opie should call the cops. A person who does this is not going to go away just because they were rejected one time. The fact that she's so casual about it, freely admitting what she did, suggests she's tracking a lot of people, and we all know AirTags come more than one to a pack. This is why her friend, Opie's friend's wife, needs to search her own car before excusing this behavior as just dating sucks. You know what's not hard for a woman in her 30s? Finding a married BFF. So what will her excuse be this time? Not the a-hole. As a woman, run. Run far and fast and don't look back. That's deceptive and controlling. It is rather impressive that she was able to stomp boundaries that weren't even established. If she wanted to come over, she could have asked, like an adult, like a sane adult. She doesn't get to make that unilateral decision by hiding a tracker on you. Your sister is right. Had you done that, cops would be involved. Everyone would be rallying behind her telling her what a stalker you are. Absolutely this is genuinely deranged. I have never heard of anyone doing this, and it's certainly not normal. Block and block any secondary people who think this is normal. Sending all best to Opie. Not the a-hole, obviously. Not the a-hole. Straight up, it is a lot more dangerous to date as a woman than as a man. That's factual. But there is no rational reason she would have left a tracker in your car. There is no rational reason for her to track you so she could see where you were / who you were with. An AirTag in her purse so her friends can track her? Absolutely reasonable and rational. Leaving that tag in your car so she can track you? That's stalking. I'd make a police report so you at least have a paper trail if she escalates her behavior. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not reminding my ex he was supposed to come over to see our daughter? I, 26 female, have a 7-year-old daughter. My ex, 28 male, wasn't involved in her life by his own choosing. But back in December, he reached out. It took some time, talking, and a little therapy, but he is back in our daughter's life for about 4 months now. We are working with the courts to establish paternity and for him to get custody. In the meantime, I've let him visit her at my place. He's taken her on day trips. Since getting a bigger apartment, he's had her spend the night. He was supposed to visit her Wednesday, have dinner with us, and watch a movie. We tried to do things the three of us, per the therapist's recommendation, so she can see us get along. My ex said he'd be over around 6. He didn't show up. By 6:30, my daughter was hungry, so I fed her. I tried to put off the movie but eventually let her watch it. She was disappointed about her dad not showing up. I put her to bed at 9. 11:30, my ex calls. Freaking out. He said he forgot we were supposed to have dinner. He only remembered because his girlfriend came home from work and asked how everything went. Rather than apologizing, he got mad at me and asked why I didn't call him. I said I'm not going to chase him down. I already spent 9 months doing that when I was pregnant, begging him to be in her life. I'm not going to do that now. It's up to him to make an effort and remember the stuff. We had therapy the next day and she's on my side. However, my ex insists that I should have called. I'm frustrated that he hasn't tried to apologize to our daughter. My mom said that I should have called. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. This really shows where ex's priorities lie. In no version of reality are you responsible for reminding him about a date with his daughter. Interesting that the ex-girlfriend remembered and he didn't. Wants women to do all the emotional work of remembering and reminding. Your mom was taught to carry that load, and she can learn that, no, it is not healthy for any of us if men don't learn to remember on their own. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. He's just mad his new girlfriend saw him for the deadbeat father that he is. Ignore your mom. Listen to your therapist. Yep, because you know that the girlfriend is the only reason he's doing this anyway. Not the a-hole. It's not your responsibility to keep your ex in schedule. As a 28-year-old adult, he should take responsibility for himself and his time. One thought, maybe set up a shared calendar so when you have activities that are planned, it can go on the shared calendar. Not that you have to by any means, but just a thought to keep track for you and to eliminate any "I forgot" excuses from him. That's a good idea, actually. As someone who forgets a lot and uses a calendar app to remember, don't take the effort of making and filling the calendar for him. Tell him about it and let him use it. Otherwise, you will have to do all the work and will still be blamed if something is missed. Next story. Am I the a-hole for expecting my girlfriend to move in and listen to my rules? My girlfriend, 26 female, and I, 28 male, have been living together for a few months. Recently, I got some money after my grandpa passed and was able to buy a duplex. I put down 20% and she and I agreed to split the mortgage, property taxes, insurance, utilities, etc. It comes out to $1,000 for each, and she agreed. But then she wanted to make changes to the house I don't agree with and bring her dog. Her dog has been living with her parents for the 3 months we moved into together in the place I rented before buying. She wants to bring him because he's her dog and her parents only agreed to let him stay with her temporarily. But I don't want the dog to move in with us and potentially damage the house. He isn't known to damage stuff as far as I know, but he does run around the house. And I want her to pay $100 extra a month for potential damage or $1,000 extra as a damage deposit. She's angry because we agreed on $1,000 and no damage deposit and feels like I'm making it too hard to bring her dog. She also wants to put a clothesline in my backyard and I find it weird and tacky. Maybe it's because I grew up in suburbia, but everyone I know uses the dryer. But she insists she needs to have a clothesline and hates the dryer. She claims her clothing are too expensive to be put in the dryer, and she has only used a clothesline or drying rack her whole life. But that because our yard can accommodate a clothesline, I should allow it. I don't want the neighbor to see her put her underwear on a clothesline, and I think they will complain as it ruins the surrounding house value. She also wants to fill up a large part of the downstairs with her stuff. Our place isn't very big, and she wants to bring her skis, rock climbing equipment like ropes, harness, etc., 2 bikes and her winter tires. She also wants to buy a mount to install for the bikes for the winter. She doesn't have many other things like clothes, but we don't have a big basement. It's like a half basement, and she wants to put her stuff downstairs. I want to convert the downstairs into a gym for me, but she wants to move her stuff out of her parents' place because they are going to downsize when they retire in a year or 2. I told her she needs to either not do these things, like the clothesline, or pay for the storage place and dog. She refuses though, and says either I let her move in with the agreed upon rent, or she's finding another place to live. She's currently back with her parents, and I've been paying for the whole place alone. She thinks I'm an a-hole for penny pinching her, but I don't think a landlord would be okay with her dog and clothesline, so I'm doing her a favor. She also makes more, $130K versus my $90K, so it's not she can't pay her fair share. Can already tell you are the a-hole. If she is paying rent or mortgage in this place, she has the right to make changes to her living situation. Her asks are normal expectations of things in a home. To turn this around, what you want is for your girlfriend to abandon her clothes, her pet, her hobbies, her belongings, and her income to be a live-in bangmate and pay you for the privilege. Why would anyone agree to that? You messed up and probably destroyed your relationship. You're the a-hole. Right, she pays exactly what he pays, but has to give up everything for the pure joy of it? I hope she sees the writing on the wall and gets out soon. My girlfriend wants to move in together, but get this, she wants to actually live there and bring her stuff. I can't clutch my pearls any harder. Info, do you actually love this woman? Because you're not acting like it. You're the a-hole. If she wants a landlord, she could just get an apartment. If instead you want her to be your partner, she needs to be able to live in the house. Like actually live in it. And yeah, lived-in places start to look lived in. I was going to say exactly this. OP wants to be a landlord rather than a partner. I think they will complain as it ruins the surrounding house value. A clothesline ruining the value of a whole neighborhood is bar none the most ridiculous thing I read on Reddit. You're the a-hole. You want your girlfriend to move in, split the expenses, but having no or very few of her belongings? This is not how a cohabitation works. I seriously balked at that. Of all the things you ruin a yard, a clothesline? Last story. Am I the a-hole for kicking out my sister because she wouldn't respect my wife? I, 32 male, and my wife, 31 female, sleep in separate bedrooms. It sounds a little weird, but it isn't. My wife has gone through some things, and one thing she refuses to do is sleep in the same room as someone. The only exception is babies and children. She told me from the beginning that she trusts me with every fiber of her being, but she just cannot do it. Of course, I didn't care, and I have my own little bat cave where I sleep. Now here's where the actual story is. My sister, 27 female, asked if she could stay over at our house for the weekend because apparently her and her roommate got into an argument. Me and my wife agreed, and I told my sister about my wife's room thing. If you know she's sleeping, don't go in there. My sister was always kind of a spoiled brat, but it really shone here. She complained that the bed in the guest room was too lumpy, and she didn't want to sleep in my room because of my man smell. After all this, it was obvious that she would complain about the couch too. I told her my wife's room was off limits, and it was either the options we gave her or she could find a motel. She agreed and everything seemed fine until I woke up at 3 in the damn morning to my wife yelling, along with my sister. When I went to go see what happened, my wife was crying and my sister was just yelling back. I learned now that my sister sleeps in her underwear, so that made it even worse. I got into an argument and started yelling at my sister to get her crap and get out. I had one rule and she broke it. Her last statement was calling my wife a crybaby. My wife told me that my sister was trying to sleep in her room, possibly trying to kick her out. After that, I got text messages and calls from my parents, saying I was a horrible brother for kicking her out like that and agreeing with her saying that my wife was a crybaby and she should suck it up. Of course, I just didn't listen to it, but my wife came to me and started talking about how I could have handled it better and how she got texts from my mother saying the same. She said later the same day that she was happy I protected her. Still don't know why she said that, but it was probably my mother. This is really for if I should just apologize and get my parents off my back. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. You offered your sister 3 different beds to sleep on, and instead, she chooses to literally sneak into the one room she's been told isn't up for grabs in the middle of the night? I'm pretty sure she's a character from a fairy tale. Goldilocks comes to mind. Apparently, her and her roommate got into an argument. Not surprised. Not the a-hole. Honestly, I have a hard time believing the story. Probably because I can't fathom what was sister's big idea about showing up in early morning in her underwear in someone else's room. But if anything, inappropriate bedtime behavior might be a good reason why a roommate kicked her out. Have you heard of I'm the Main Character subreddit? When it comes to people doing selfish things, I can believe almost anything. Info: what the hell was your sister doing at 3 a.m. in your wife's room in her underwear? Ask your parents for clarification on this. Sorry, my sister sleeps in her underwear, and she went into my wife's room to sleep. At least that's what I know. Even though a person was already in the bed? That makes no sense. Talk to your parents properly because sister might be making stuff up. Your sister is absolutely unhinged. Your wife's trauma doesn't even play into this. It is baffling beyond comprehension that someone would climb into bed with someone else without being invited in the middle of the night? Half naked? Not the a-hole. I would be absolutely screaming. Yeah, I don't have hang-ups about sleeping in someone else's presence, and I'd start screaming too. I really don't think there's an innocent explanation for a grown adult crawling into bed with another grown adult who said they don't want her there.